Ken doesn't look like he's there, so I'll stall until he shows up. But today's daf in Masechet Bava Metzia is daf Pei Aleph 81. And the thing we said yesterday in our Mishnah, Ken, don't worry, I was stalling until you came.
All
So you
right.
didn't miss anything. So we are at the two dots, 5 lines from the bottom of daf Pei Amud Bet, 80b, even though today's daf is Pei Aleph, right? So the Mishnah, hi Miriam, we're just getting started. So the Mishnah talked about this interesting case of an uman, right? Someone who is hired basically to be a worker, to work on something. What is their status in terms of watching that thing? And we said it depends on whether they're still watching it because they're working, in which case they're essentially a shomer sachar. And potentially after they're done, if they say, call the guy up and say, look, I finished working on this, come pick it up and pay me, then there may be a shomer chinam, right? However, we'll learn more about this today. What we didn't discuss is what if the guy calls him up and says, come pay me and then pick your thing up, meaning I'm holding your shirt hostage, essentially, until you pay me, right? In which case the uman who has the shirt is gaining from having it because that is what assures him payment, right? So if it's conditional, then maybe that's a shomer sachar, and we'll discuss that a little bit more today. But in a Mishnah, what you said was, come tool, take your thing, and then pay me. So you're not conditioning taking it on paying me. Says the Gemara today.
So
5
if
lines.
he's using it, if he's holding it and using it, maybe it's ribbit.
No, there's no rebate. There's no loan here. You gave the dry
Okay.
cleaning shirt to launder, right? So that's not a question of repeat. The question is the dry cleaner a shomer chinam or a shomer sachar, or neither maybe? But let's start with those two options. So shomer chinam he would be if he's gaining from holding on to your thing. He's essentially being paid to watch it, right? Even though you didn't pay him to watch it, you paid him to fix it because he's going to hold on to it in order for you to pay him. Once he's finished with the job, and therefore he wants to have it because he wants to make money. So our Mishnah said, but if his job is done and he calls you up and he says, come take your shirt and pay me, then he becomes a shomer chinam because he no longer is doing anything with the shirt. He no longer needs it. He's watching it essentially for free now. And he's only responsible as a shomer chinam would be responsible. So that's our Mishnah. Again, I'll read in the 2 dots. Kulan shamru tu al chacha. If the uman says, take your thing, the havemaot and pay me, then he becomes a shomer chinam. Now it's not hatam. We're going to try to analyze this for the next while from a Mishnah later in this Masechet. There's a Mishnah later in this Masechet that says, Amar lo shoel, right? If a person says to a borrower, right, a guy calls someone up and says, I want to borrow your donkey, right? And he says, shalach, can you send it to my house? Through your kid, right? Is what the Mishnah says. Vishilcha, and so Ruvain sends his donkey to the house of Shimon, and it dies on the way. The question is, did Shimon already become the borrower, right? Vishilcha, umeta. Says the Mishnah later, chayav. Shimon is chayav because he already, once he said, I'm borrowing it and send it to me, that started the borrowing, and he's responsible for anything that happened at that point. And furthermore, the same is true. The same is true when you give it back, meaning that if the borrower gave it to a shliach to bring back to the lender, but he didn't tell the lender I'm sending it back, and the lender didn't say, okay, give it to my agent, right? So on its way back to the lender, if it dies, you're also chayav. So that's problematic, right? We'll see why in a second. But that's what the Mishnah says. And said Rav from Bar Papa about this Mishnah, Amar Chisda, that's only if Shimon borrowed this donkey for 30 days. And during the 30 days, he decides to send it back. He no longer needs it, right? So 15 days in, he sends it back through a messenger, but on its way, it dies. The fact that it didn't get back to Ruvain means that it's still in Shimon's responsibility, and he's chayav for that death. But if it was, if it was after the 30 days were up, assuming he borrowed it for 30 days, then Shimon is patur if it dies. Even if it was in his house, he would be patur because he borrowed it for 30 days. He's a shoel for 30 days. If he doesn't return it by the end of 30 days, Reuven should come and collect it or make him pay it. But the fact that the she'ilah is over means that his responsibility is over. He's no longer a borrower. Now, mativ, that's what Rav Bar Papa said. Now, mativ, Rav Nachman Bar Papa, from what about our Mishnah? Because our Mishnah implies that says the following. Now we're quoting our Mishnah, last line. Kulan sha'amru, in any case where a uman, where a worker, expert says to a person, a buyer, tul et shalcha, take your object back, vavei ma'ot, and pay me, you become a shomer chinam, right? And the implication is that's only because he said to him, take your thing. What if he had called him up, top of daf pay aleph and aleph, and he said, Gemartiv, your curtains are done, right? Your shirt's ready. So if you had just said that, the implication is that doesn't end his responsibility. So it says Gemartiv shomer sachar, he would still be a shomer sachar, which seems to imply that even though you're hiring him for a job and he finishes his job, he doesn't lose his status as a shomer sachar. The equivalent would be a shoel, right? You gave it to someone for 30 days. 30 days are up, but you still don't lose your status. You still are a shoel, basically. Answers the Gemara, you're right, but that's not what our Mishnah means. Lo, it's not what our Mishnah means. The implication, the drasha you can make from our Mishnah, or the limud from our Mishnah, is ha havei ma'ot v'tol shacha. If the storekeeper said, bring me money and then pick up your shirts, meaning I'm not giving you back your shirts until you pay me, then he remains a shomer sachar, because then he didn't say, come pick your thing up. He said, come pay me and then pick your thing up. So as long as you don't pay me, I'm holding on to your shirts as payment or for payment, and therefore I'm still a worker. Like I'm not done with my job, basically. So that's the drasha you should make from our Mishnah. I'll read it now, top line. Ha havei ma'ot v'tol shachaf. I say the opposite. Bring me money first, and then take your shirt, your possessions. Then you're a shomer sachar. Then, in fact, you are a shomer sachar. Avagimartiv. But if the uman just called you up and said, I'm done, your things are ready, right? I'm finished. Then what would you be? You'd be a shomer chinam. You'd be, I'm done with my job as a uman, and now I'm a shomer chinam. Says, well, ihachi, if that's true, why did the Mishnah have to say a case where I said to you, take your thing and then pay me your shomer chinam? Even if I just said to you, I'm done, you're a shomer chinam, right? So why didn't I tell you the less obvious case? Instead, you should have said, nishmi'inan, gimartiv, that if the uman says, I'm done with my work, then it automatically becomes a shomer chinam, as long as I'm not holding on to your shirt for payment. And a kol sheken, I would know that if I say to you, come pick it up, that I'm for sure dispensing of my responsibility, and I'm only a shomer chinam. Kol sheken, if I say, tol el shecha, come pick your thing up, that I am a shomer chinam. So why did our Mishnah say the case of tol el shecha, if the same thing would be true about if he said, I'm finished, gemartiv, that would have been a bigger chiddush? Answers the Gemara, tol el shecha et strichale. In fact, you need to tell me that if the uman calls you up and says, I'm finished with your car, come pick it up from my shop, that he is chayiv as a shomer chinam. Because asam kedai techamina, I would have thought that he's not responsible in anything. Shomer chinam nami lo havi, because he called you up and said, I don't want it anymore. Get it off my possession. Right? So I don't even accept the responsibilities of shomer chinam. Kemashbuan, the Mishnah, that no, you can't just get rid of any responsibility. You remain a shomer chinam, but you are no longer a shomer sachar. So that is how we analyze the Mishnah. Now there are some who did the same exact limud, but they asked it as a proof, that instead of a question and an answer, it was a proof and a question on that proof. Ika da Amri, some have the same exact analysis of our Mishnah and the Mishnah later in a little bit a different vein. It's Amr of Nachman Bar Papa. Rav Nachman Bar Papa said that Afanan Nami Tanina, that in fact what Rafram Bar Papa, Amr of Chisda, said about the Mishnah later, right, is supported by our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says that wherever you say, I'm done with the job, pick it up, right, you're a shomer chinam, and we assume that means even if you just call a person up and say, my love, who had martiv, that even if I call you up and say, I'm done, you're still a shomer chinam, which supports the contention that later, right, that if you are a borrower and the time is up, you no longer remain status as a borrower, right? Meaning once the 30 days are up, or 15, whatever days you agreed to be a borrower, once that time has passed, you no longer have responsibilities for ones, for things that a borrower is responsible for. Because our Mishnah seems to imply that once your job is done, your status is done. Answers Gemara, well, it's actually not a good proof, right? Because it could be low. It's possible that tola chashani. It's only where I call you up and say, pick it up. That's where I'm done with my responsibility. If I just say to you, it's finished, and I don't say, come get it, then I'm not necessarily done with my responsibilities. Now, Huna Mar bar Meremar Kamed Ravina, Huna, the son of Mar, the son of Meremar, said in front of Ravina a same kind of analysis. Rami Matnitina Hadadi Umishani. He asked a question from one Mishnah later on our Mishnah here, and he answered the way we just answered it. It says later in the Mishnah, sorry, in our Mishnah. That if the Uman says, come pick your thing up and pay me, then he loses his status as a Shomer Sachar, and he's only a Shomer Chinam. And that implies, we assume, that even if I just call you up and say I'm done with the job, then I'm no longer a Shomer Sachar. That's the limud from our Mishnah. Veraminu, but what about, we have a contradiction from a Mishnah later. Again, we've done this already in a few methods, right? Veraminu, we have a question from later, and now we're quoting the Mishnah later. Amar lo shoel, if the borrower says, shalach, right? Send me I want to borrow your donkey, send it with a messenger, v'shilcha, and the lender sends it, then it dies on the way, you're chayav, right? Because you told him to send it, so you accepted responsibility. And the same is true when you're sending it back, which implies that you still are a shoel, even though you're sending it back. And our Mishnah made it sound like once you're done with the job, you're no longer a shomer sachar, you're no longer the same status. Well, Mishani, and he answered that this is what Rav from Bar Papa said. I'm Rav from Bar Papa, I'm Rav Chisda, lo shanel shechzir b'toch yimei she'ilata. You only remain a shoel if it's during the 30 days or whatever time. I picked 30 arbitrarily, right? But whatever time you borrowed it for. Because then you haven't changed your status as a borrower. Once the 30 days are up or the time of borrowing is up, then you would be patur. Then you would no longer be a borrower. And if you borrowed an animal for a certain amount of time and that time is passed and then it dropped dead, an onus happened, not drop dead, an onus happened to it, then you would be patur because you're no longer considered to be a borrower. And the truth is you're not really allowed to use it either. Right? If I borrow something from you, if I say, can I borrow your car for 20 days? And 20 days are up, I'm not allowed to use it anymore, right? So therefore, you're no longer a shoel. Well, ask the Gemara.
But does he have, two questions. One, if he holds it beyond the 30 days, does he have achrayut to ensure that it's returned in the proper position? He's holding the cow. Does he have to feed the cow? Does he have to make sure, nothing happens to it if he on day 35, 36, for whatever reason?
Ask the Gemara, it's the next question. So ask the Gemara, Bailu. Patur mi shoel, right? He's patur from being treated like a shoel because he's no longer allowed to use it. But what is his responsibility? So is he chayav kishomer sachar? Is he chayav to watch it and to protect it like a shomer sachar, meaning if it's stolen or dies, or lost, sorry, not dies, stolen or nignav or avad, he'd be responsible. Odilma, is he not a shomer sachar either? He might be a shomer chinam, but he's not even a shomer sachar, meaning he has no responsibility. Amar Amemar answered Amemar Mistavra. It makes sense to say that Patur Mishoel, right? He's not a borrower, so he's not chayav for ones, but he's chayav kishomer sachar. He does have responsibility, like someone who was paid to watch this. Why? When was he paid? Because hov nehaneh mehanehavi. Right, since he was given the thing to use for 30 days, he basically, that was his payment essentially, right? Although obviously it was not literally his payment, but because he gained from it, that's considered to be something that he gained from it. He remains a shomer sachar. So to answer your question, according to Amemar, right, it sounds like, right, it's Amemar? I think so. Amemar, he remains a shomer sachar until this goes back to its original owner. But he's not allowed to use it. His term of rental is over. His term of borrowing, is over, and therefore he's also not chayav for onsim like a shoel would be chayav. And there's a bright.
He uses it. Is it considered geneva?
Yeah. Tanya,
or is it going to be ribbit?
There's no ribbit. You didn't borrow money.
But it's a borrower. But this is a loan.
Oh, it's true, but it's be considered geneva. Tanya Kavate de Amemar. There was a brayta that supports Amemar, which says the following: let's say, so interesting case. Let's say a young man, we're going to say, that's the case here, got engaged, okay? And he wants to send gifts. It was traditional back then, maybe still today, for the chatan to send gifts to his bride or bride-to-be. I guess there was a bride, once was kiddushin's family. So he goes to the store and he buys, beautiful dishes or not beautiful dishes. He buys kelim and he wants the shagran, the beit chamiv, to send them to his father-in-law's house, right, as a gift. Now he understands, like all people do, that his taste in dishes may be very different than his future mother-in-law's taste in dishes, right? So he says, Amarlo, he says to the storekeeper, Im mikablin tell me many. Look, if they like them and they accept delivery, ani noten lecha dmeya. Right, I'll pay you whatever the pot's got. Sending let's just say a set of china. If they like it, I'll pay you for it. The imlav, if they say, thanks, it's a nice thought, but we don't really like that color, then they'll return it. And I'm going to pay you because, it certainly looks good for me that I'm sending a nice gift, right? So even if it gets returned, I certainly got benefit from sending over a beautiful gift. So I'll pay you, maybe the dishes are $1,000. And if they don't accept them, I'll pay you $100 or whatever they agree on. So they agreed on this. And then unfortunately, is what happened. An onus happened to the delivery and the dishes were destroyed. So says the Braita, Bahalicha chayav. If it's on the way from the storekeeper to the house, then you're chayav, because we'll discuss this actually later in Bava Batra, but it's because essentially it's like he bought them, right? He agreed on a price and everything was settled if they accepted them. So it's as if he already bought them, and so he's responsible for all payment. But b'chazira patur. But on the way back, he's patur, because if the father-in-law's family said, we don't want the dishes, then there's no sale, right? So they're going back. Now, what's the responsibility of this son-in-law or future son-in-law, right, to watch them? Because he bought them, or basically he borrowed them, essentially as buying them. Once he didn't buy them, is he have any responsibility? Says the Braita, patur mipnei shehu kinosei sachar. Because he's like a nosei sachar. Why is he a nosei sachar? What payment is he getting? You see, because since it's beneficial for him, because he wants to, show off that he basically gave something, he goes down one level. He used to be a shoel, or responsible for all onsim, and now he goes down one level because he gained from this process. And the same thing would be true about a borrower. That since a borrower gained from borrowing your cow for 30 days, after that 30 days, although he's not a borrower anymore, he remains a shomer sachar. Now, the next case, we're 3 lines, third from the first wide lines, the last word on the line. There was a guy who sold a chamor. There's always a little bit of a debate whether this means a chamar or wine, right? But I don't think Rashi even says here. Elsewhere, Rashi has, there's always a little bit of discussion. But anyways, the person sold a chamar, we're going to go with, to his friend, okay? From his friend. He bought it basically from his friend. So, and he said to him the following, where am I? Ha'u gavra, zavan lechamra lechavre. He bought this from his friend. Amrle, he said, look, kamamtina li l'tuchta ploni. I really want to bring it. I have someone who wants to buy it from me. Well, I think that people are going to want to buy it from me in the marketplace in wherever, Pittsburgh. I'll use as my favorite example. So I want to buy your donkey from you, right? That's what I said, right? Your chamar. And I want to bring it. Sorry, I lost you guys. There we go. I want to bring it to this place, the Duchta Ploni, to such and such place. Im mizdavna mutav. If I find a buyer in that place, then I want to buy it from you, basically, right? I'm buying it on consignment, essentially, right? I'm buying this from you. I'm going to take it to this place. If I find the buyer there, then the sale is good. Vilo mahadrina leinihilech. If not, I'm going to come give it back to you. So I'm willing to buy this from you on condition that I can resell it, basically, in this other place, which is a very common scenario. So azav v'lo azdavna. So what happened is he took the donkey, he went to Pittsburgh or wherever the market was, and he couldn't find anyone to buy it there. Okay, so he's bringing it back to the guy who sold it to him to get his money back, or maybe he didn't pay yet, but to get his deal over. Ubahadi dekaati itnas, but on the way back, an onus happened, right? An onus, which you wouldn't be chayav on, unless you were a borrower, happened. And after the Kameder of Nach, when they came in front of Nachman, and he basically said, you're chayav because essentially you are like a borrower. Right, you essentially borrowed or bought this thing, and until you return it, you're still chayav. So that's what Rav Nachman said, that you're chayav to pay. Eitvei Rabba Rav Nachman asked Rabba to Rav Nachman, what about the Braita we just quoted? That if you go and you purchase something to send to your father-in-law's house, right, and you say, if they don't like it, I'm going to return it to you. And then we said, Nensu, if there was an ones, Bahalicha chayav, on its way there, you're chayav because we still think the sale is going to happen. But b'chazara patur b'nei shu kinosei sachar. On the way back, you are basically no longer a buyer. You're a shomer sachar because you got benefit from it, but you're no longer a buyer. And since you're no longer a buyer, you're essentially, we don't view it as being borrowed either. You don't pay for an ones. So why here on the way back from the fair, when you didn't sell the chamor, do you have to pay if it's an ones? Amalei, so Rav Nachman answered him and said, look, this is a different case. Because chazara dahai halichahi. even on the way back from the fair, from Pittsburgh to the owner, that's still as if the way there for someone going to his father-in-law's house. My time, why? Svarahu, because it's just based on logic. B'chazirato, if he's on his way back and he finds someone who's going to buy it from him, right? Ilu ishkach lizvuni milo zavne. If someone says to him, "Oh, I love that donkey, that beautiful donkey, right? I want to buy it from you," he's going to sell it to that person. So basically, unlike with the father-in-law, where once they rejected the new dishes, their total return, here, even though you went to the place to sell the donkey and you weren't able to sell it, you're still in sale mode. And if you find someone to buy it from you on the way back, you would sell it to them, and therefore you continue to be a buyer, or in this case, it's equivalent to a borrower, and you are chayav for everything, including ones.
So this is not specific, but if he had a specific buyer in Pittsburgh and he said, I'm going to plan to give it to that buyer, and if he rejects it, then he would be putter and mistam on the way back, right?
I'm not so sure.
That would be similar to the case with the father-in-law.
I mean, it would no, because the difference is the difference is that in this case, you still would want to sell if someone if someone wants to buy it from you, you could sell it to anybody. You might have one person in mind, but it doesn't exclude other people. The thing about the gift to the father-in-law is that if they don't take the dishes, you're not going to send them to your mother, right? It's not like you have a backup for the dishes. So therefore, it's not a deal. Tosas here discusses, actually, it's an interesting, it's a little complicated about the discussion about how sellable these things have to be, right? Because in essence, if it's something that you can sell very easily, then we assume that you still want, like you're asking, right? If it's what's called zavna charifa mean a fast sale, then, I have a guy, I think I'll sell it in Pittsburgh, but I can sell it anywhere. If it's not something I sell quickly, then I assume I'm not going to sell it if my buyer doesn't find it. So it might depend on what price you're willing to take, right? Well, how much you hope to make from it. But it does depend very much on the circumstances. Not nearly finally. The next thing is 2 dots. The Mishnah said, if a person goes to somebody else and says, look, shemor li veshmar lecha, you're a shomer sachar. I go to someone and say, do me a favor, watch my donkey for me. I'll watch your cow for you. Then, although no one's paying anybody, since I'm gaining from that because he's doing a favor for me because I'm doing this for him, I'm a shomer sachar. Ask the Gemara, am I? But shmira beba'alimi. We're going to have a case, we're going to discuss this a lot later in the Masechet, that if you recall, the Torah says that if you borrow from someone, the Torah says, and the owners are not with you, shalem yishalem. But if the owners are with you when you borrow it, you don't have any responsibility. And the halacha is, and that applies not just to shoel, but also to shomer sachar, and maybe shomer chinam, we'll discuss, that if the owner is with you when you borrow the item, that you assume, for whatever reason, it's based on a pasuk, that your responsibilities as shomer do not apply. You don't have those responsibilities. You might have lesser, but you don't have full responsibilities. So here too, if you say to the guy, if you're working together with the animals and I borrow your ox, but I say, come work with me on the ox, I'm not responsible as a shomer. Here too, I basically said to you, I'm going to watch your thing, but you work with me to watch my thing. So he's essentially working with you. And if the owners are working with you, you don't have responsibility as a shomer. So ask the Gemara, Amai, Shmira beba'alimhi. It's watching something with the owners present. And if the owners are present, you generally don't have to pay. Amar of Papa, Sir of Papa, of course not. But the case here is not where you said, I'll watch your cow if you watch my donkey together. It's where he said to them, Amarle, Shemarli hayom, v'shmar lechal machar. I'll watch today, you watch tomorrow. So they're not actually working together. One is working on Monday and one is working on Sunday. Tanur Abanan, in fact, there's a braita which speaks this out a little bit. Shemarli, if one person says to another person, I'll watch for me, v'shmar lecha, and I'll watch for you, or Hashileni, v'ashilcha, lend me your drill, and I'll lend you my item. So that's not considered to be she'elah because you're getting paid basically, right? That's like a socher essentially. Because although you're giving me the drill and I'm giving you my hammer, right? You're essentially paying for the benefit by giving the hammer. So you're no longer a shoel. Or shamar li vashilcha, or you switch it up. Watch for me and I'll lend you my hammer. Hashileni veshmar lecha. In all of these, you're kulan nasu shomrei sachar zelazeh. They're basically shomrei sachar because they're essentially paying each other. Asking Mara the same question. Amai shmira bebalim, at least the first case. A shomer sachar, it's shmira bebalim. And Rav Papa said, Damar le shmar li hayom, veshmar lechal machar. He said to him, watch for me today, and I will watch for you tomorrow. So it's not the same time. Now, Hanu ahulai. There were
What's the
these.
difference between this section, this Tanu Rabbanan, and above where they were
Our mission,
exchanging?
well, our mission only had one case, right? Our mission only had Shemar Liva, Shemar Lecha. This one has all the borrowing added, but the halacha is the same so far. We're actually going to see in a minute that it's different, but so far it's all the same. Now, Hanu Ahalovi, Aholai. There were these Aholai. Rashi says Aholai are these dealers in Aholai, which is some thing that smells good, some grass that you use to clean your clothing with. Okay. Detergent, thank you. So these were, dealers. So the whole yom. Now these people, I guess they were working right on making on this stuff, and every day, havi afilu chad minayo. There was one who had the job. They were 5 traders, let's say, working together, and one of them would bake the food for them that day. Would make lunch, right? So who yuma? There was one day. They said to one of them. We'll see in a second whether it was his turn or not. Zil afilan, go make us lunch. Amarli said, well, can you do me a favor? I'm going into the oven. Naturally, glimai, I want you to watch my coat for me, right? So now the question, of course, is are they shomrei, are they shomrim, and are they shomer sachar, or are they shomer chinam, right? He's baking for them, right? So ada'ata pashibe, as before he got back from baking, they were negligent. And, and someone walked off with the coat, vignav, and it got stolen. Right, so after the kameder of Papa, so he came in front of Papa, and he said, "Look, you're chayiv to pay because you were shomer sachar, let's say, because he was working for you, and you were posheya, right? And it got stolen. Sorry, forget about the pshia for a second. And it got stolen, so you're chayiv to pay." So Amalei Rabbanan Rav Papa, the Rabbanan said to Rav Papa, "So what? Amai pshia bebaalimi." It was a pshia with the owners present, right? Because basically he was working for them by baking at the time that they were supposed to be watching it. And remember, if the owner is working with you at the time that you're supposed to be watching their thing, you're not responsible. So Rav Papa got embarrassed. Ichsev. He said the wrong thing. He said that they were chayav, and in fact, they should be patur. L'sof, it turned out in the end that Rav Papa was right, because Iglai Milta, it turned out that he shaita, that, the guy who said he was going to get lunch, as many people sometimes do, didn't go to get lunch. He went to the bar and had a beer first. Okay, that he shaita at that time, shikra havikashati, he was having a drink. And so therefore, since he was having a drink, he didn't start working. And since he didn't start working, it's not pshia b'ba'alim, because he wasn't working for them at the time that the thing was stolen. Okay, so it turned out Rav Papa didn't know that, so he was wrong. But it turned out that he was justified. Says the Gemara, well, now this doesn't make any sense what you just said, because Hani Chalamanda Amar, I skated over this. According to the Manda Amar Pshia Bebalim Patur, that if you're a Posheya, now remember, Posheya is one step above getting stolen or losing. It's where you're negligent. You left the door wide open, right? You left the keys in the car. So there, if you say Pshia Bebalim is Patur, I get it. That's why Papa was embarrassed. But there's going to be an opinion later, Lamand Amar, that you're chayav. That when we say that if the owner's there, you're patur, you're only patur from ones, or you're patur from stealing, but you're not patur from pshia. If the case here was pshia, why was he embarrassed? Am I ichsef? It doesn't matter if you're working for the owners. You still can't be negligent. Ella says, well, the case, that doesn't make any sense. The case must be a little bit different. Hahu yuma lav didahavi. What the case here was, it's not that he was supposed to bake that day and he was doing his job. It wasn't his day, right? But the guy who was supposed to make lunch was, I don't know, was not there, or was still finishing another job. The Amalei Didei, and they said to him, do us a favor, meaning do us an extra goodness, zil apilanat. You should bake for us today. And he said to them, okay, I will be happy to, but this is not my day. I will bake for you, but instead of you paying me, right, I want you to watch. Of course, in that case, he's a shomer sachar, very clearly. So turn the page. Now, till he got back from his baking, Ignav, it was stolen. So there was no pshia in this telling of the story. It was just a regular stealing, right? And so, but they were supposed to be shomer sachar because he was baking for them. And so they came in front of Rav Papa, the story we had before, out to the Kameder of Papa, and Chayvinu, and he said, okay, they were Shomer Sachar, because he was baking for them. They were negligent, because they got stolen. They were negligent, but it got stolen. They've got to pay. A Shomer Sachar is Chay for Geneva. And that's where the Rabbanan said to Rav Papa, so what if they were Shomer Sachar, and it was stolen? Hashmira b'ba'alimi. At the time that they were watching it, he was working for them. And when someone is working for them, we're going to see later that even if you're working for them at the beginning and you stop working for them, the owners are still, the shomrim are still patur. So it's shmira b'ba'alim, and you should be patur. And that's where Rav Papa got embarrassed, ichsef. But it turned out at the end that he was right, because the Sof Iglai Milta, that he shaita shikha avishati, that during that time they were, in fact, he was not working, he was not baking for them, he was having a drink. And since he was having a drink and hadn't started baking, he wasn't working for them yet, and therefore they are still Shomrei Sachar, right? Because although he hasn't worked for them yet, he's gonna work for them, right? So it's basically saying to someone, I'm gonna, bake for me and I'll watch your thing, right? In which case they are Shomer Sachar the whole time. Now, next case.
Why is it not? But it's still Pashia, even though it was Geneva, it's still Pashia.
No, it's not.
The Pashia, the Geneva is because of the Pashia. They weren't.
No. So Genevas are where robbers come and steal something. It's not Pshia is where you are negligent, when you left the door wide open or something. But if someone broke into your house and stole something, that's not considered to be Pshia. And if you were a Shomer Chinam, you would be Pater. It's called Geneva, right? But a Shomer Sachar has to watch against that. That's part of the responsibility of being paid.
Right.
So again, we changed the gear. We changed the language. The original language was they were Pashaba and it was stolen. We took out those words in the second telling, and it's not Pashaba, it was just plain stolen. So there's no Pshia. Now, continues the next case. It's very exciting cases. We are 4 lines from the top. Hano Beitrei. There were 2 people. This is a funny story. Oh, great story. There were 2 gentlemen walking down the road. We're setting it up, right? They were going down the road. Chad arich v'chad gutza. One was tall and one was short. Okay, they don't get names in the Gemara, but the tall one and the short one. Now, interestingly, again, the aricha rachiv chamra. The tall one was riding on a donkey, and that's one detail, meaning he wasn't on the ground. V'havi le sadina, and he was wearing a coat that was made out of sadin. Sadin is like linen, I think, and Rashi points out that it is pishtan, yeah, and it doesn't really get ruined by water. It dries very quickly, okay? When pishtan gets wet, it doesn't soak it up, and it dries very fast. So we're going to see this is going to be important in the story, that they're about to go through water. The gutsa, now the short guy, he was michse sarbala. He was wearing a woolen coat. Now, wool, if it gets wet, it takes a really long time for wool to dry, right? They come and it gets ruined and it gets soaked. Maske bikare, and he was walking on his feet, meaning he did not have a car to get him off the road. So this is problematic because, of course, what happened to these 2 guys? They came to a river, right? Kimatu nahara. They came to pass a river, and so the short one, who was close to the ground and walking, didn't want his coat to get wet because it was wool and it would take a very long time to dry. So what he did is he took off his coat. Shakle the sarbala, he took off his woolen coat. The otve elecham, and he threw it on top of the chamor, which was higher up and therefore would not get wet. And I guess he didn't want to go naked or whatever he was wearing. Shakle lisadina dahu, so he took the linen jacket of the guy on the donkey. And he covered himself up with it. Okay, so that's the story. I love the story. So we got the whole story. The short guy took the coat from the tall guy who's riding the donkey, who's got a water repellent coat. He's got a water absorbing coat. Everyone's happy. Of course, what happened is a big wave came and threw away the coat, right? So the wave came, shatfu maya l'sadina, and the sadin, the linen coat that he took, was washed away. So now the question is, who has to pay? Was it his responsibility? And one of the questions, of course, is what is his responsibility? Is he a shoel? Is he a shomer sachar? Right? We're assuming here that shatfu mayim is an onus, right? It's unavoidable. So if you're a shoel, you're chayav, but if you're a shomer sachar, you'd be pater. So how do you view this? So Amar ata the kamei de Rava. So they came in front of Rava, and Rava said, "Chayav, this short guy is for sure chayav. He took this guy's coat and he lost it. He's a borrower and he's chayav." So Amrulay Rabbanan, the Rabbanan said to Rava, "Why is he chayav amai she'ela bebalimi?" But it was basically done at the time that he exchanged, right? He borrowed it, but he gave his coat to the tall guy to hold on to, and the tall guy is essentially working for him at that time by holding his coat. So he's working together, and therefore she'ela bebalim, you should be patur. And Rava had no answer. Ichsef, he was embarrassed again, just like Rav Papa before. L'sof iglai milton. Now, it turned out at the end of the story that we left out some details, because it turned out that the short guy never asked the tall guy for this arrangement to happen. He didn't say, let's exchange coats while we go through the water. He just took his coat and threw his on the top back of the chamor, in which case there's no agreement to anything. It's stealing, basically, right? He just stole his coat, and of course you're chayiv. L'sof iglai milta de below date shakle below date otve. He took the linen coat without asking. He threw his wool coat on top of the donkey without asking. So no one was watching it. There was no agreement here, and since there's no agreement, of course he's chayiv because it's not even he didn't even borrow it. He stole it. He took it without permission. Okay, that's that case.
Hashem protects even rabbis who make errors.
I guess so. But not short people who take things.
They're walking together. So why didn't the tall one who's on the donkey object? Why is he? What are you doing taking my coat?
He's probably on his phone. I'm guessing he didn't take it off his back, right? So I guess it was a blanket or something.
Well, we had a discussion earlier in the Gemara that someone that could object, right? There was yesterday, the day before.
Yeah, yesterday we had it, but no. Obviously, the point is that we didn't know what the story was, so we initially assumed that this was the guy nodded off and said, "Okay, take the linen coat and give me the wool coat to hold on to," and he agreed to it. In which case, they would be putter. But obviously, we found out that was not correct, and therefore that's why he was chayav. Now, who gaver to ogre chamer lechavre? The next case is a person rents a donkey to his friend. Amrle, he says, "Look, I'm renting you my donkey, but I want to make a condition here. Chazi, look, lo tezo ba'orcha de Nahar Pekod. I don't want you to go on Nahar Pekod Road, which is, let's say, Broadway, because ikamaya, there's always water. It's low lying. It's always flooded at different parts. My donkey is very sensitive to water. It's going to get injured and die. Zil ba'orcha de Narish. Go to the road of Narish, which I guess was a higher road. Delekamaya, there's no water on that road. Okay, so the guy told him this specific instructions about his donkey. And of course, the person who rented it did not listen. He tried to avoid the tax or something, and he went on the road of Nahar Pekod, umit chamra, and the donkey died. Now, when he came back, he said, "Look, I'm really sorry. Your donkey died, and I didn't listen to your instructions." Amari said, it's true. I went on the road of Nahar Pekod, but I got to tell you, Mia leka maya, there was no water. That's not what happened, right? So you were worried that there was going to be water, your donkey was going to die. I took the road. We didn't get any water. Your donkey just died, in which case I'm not responsible. I used it normally. Amrle Rava, so said Rava, well, without any more surveillance cameras, Mali the Shaker. We would view this when we have a category of things called amigo, essentially, which is why would he lie? Meaning, if you think someone's lying, they could have told a better lie. They had a better lie to say, and they said a lesser lie, then you trust them, right? Because if he wanted to, he could have said to you, I went on Orcha Denarish. No one would have known. I guess there were no witnesses, right? And so he could have lied and said, I didn't go on that road. The fact that he admitted that he went on the wrong road, but he said there was no water, is a reason to believe him that there was really no water. Amalei Abaya said, it's not true. You know why? Because Mali the Shaker b'makom edim lo amrinan. We don't say Mali the Shaker when there are witnesses, because Rashi, it's not so clear exactly. Rashi makes it sound here like we assume that the facts are witnesses, meaning it's so common for there to be water that we just don't trust you. We could find witnesses who will come and say there was water on the road of Nahar Pekod. And therefore, since it's always the case that there's water there, the fact that you said it's not, which, yeah, you could have lied, you could have said something else, but the reality is that we have witnesses that go against you, or we will have witnesses, and therefore you're not believed.
Well, Rashi uses this expression, Danan Sahadi, with the Gemara mentions that in many other places, that it's sort of like an established fact. There is this essence of witnesses.
So one said, just because those are words of the Gemara. The Gemara says, "B'makom edim."
Well, Rashi said Danan Sahadi.
Right, the word Sahadi and edim are the same word. One is Hebrew and one is Aramaic.
No, I know that. But I'm saying there's an expression, the Anan Sahari, which means that the Gemara in general in other places uses that expression. That means that there's this concept of even though there aren't there's like this body concept of witness correct.
That's right. So that's how he understands that when we say makom edim, we mean the facts are established. So therefore, what you say is not believed. We are now at the middle of the page. We're going to finish in 5 to 8 minutes. I don't remember what time mincha is, but we'll get to the next 2 dots. Shemarli, right? Now, if a person says to somebody else, do me a favor, right? Watch this thing for me. And you say to them, Amarlo, hanach lefanai. Okay, you could put it down here. Then you're a shomer chinam. You're accepting to watch it. You're not getting paid or anything, but you accepted responsibility to watch it by saying, put it down in front of me. Amar Rav Huna says, Rav Huna, well, that's if you say, put it down in front of me. But Amarlo, if you say, hanach lefanecha, put it down at your feet. Then you're saying, I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ask me to watch your thing. Do it yourself. then Eino lo shomer chinam v'lo shomer sachar, you don't accept any responsibility. Says we're okay. So if I say put it at my feet, I accept it. If I say put it at your feet, I don't accept it. Iboilu. What if you say put it down? Hanach stamamai. Right? If I say the guy says to you, can I leave my bike here while I run to the bathroom? And you say put it down. So is that saying I'm accepting or not? So Tashma, the Breita says, Shemorli, right? If a person says, watch it for me, Vamar lo hanach lefanai, then you're shomer chinam, which implies that's only because I said put it down in front of me. I'm accepting my ownership, my responsibility. But hastama v'lo klum. If I said put it down, it would mean nothing. Doesn't mean okay, but then look at the opposite thing we just said. Adarabba. Midamar Rav Huna said that if I say hanach lefanecha, put it at your own feet. Then I'm saying I'm not a shuda eino lo shomer chinam lo shomer sachar. But if I just say put it down, hastama shomer chinam havi, Ella, you're right. Mehalek l'mashmina, we don't have a proof from here which way it is. If I just say to someone, put it down, we can't yet conclude. We're going to keep going. We can't yet conclude whether I'm accepting responsibility or I'm saying, the heck with it, take care of your own thing. I'm not accepting anything. So we're not sure. Says this reminds us, if you recall, about a Mishnah that we learned about a few months ago in the middle of Masechet Bava Kama, right? In the middle of Masechet Bava Kama, it said that, let's say, remember we had the case of Chatzer, and a person comes into your Chatzer and he puts his stuff down, right? So remember that we had a case where the owner of the courtyard didn't explicitly say, you can store your things in my courtyard, right? But he basically said to him, you can, well, so this is the case. If you brought something into the courtyard and you had permission from the Baal Chatzer, meaning you said to him, can I put something down in your courtyard? And he said, yes. Then he accepted responsibility as Shmira, and then the owner of the courtyard is Chayav. If he's Posheya or something, or negligent, and he leaves his courtyard unlocked, since he gave you permission to put it there, he accepted responsibility. Rebbe disagrees, and Rebbe said, Bekulam, in all the cases of the Mishnah where someone put into the courtyard, Eino Chayav, the owner of the courtyard is not Chayav to watch it, Ad Sheyikablu alav bal habayit lishmor, unless you explicitly said, I'm going to watch it, right? So this seems to be very similar. If I say to someone, put your thing down at my feet, right? We're standing at the, let's say at the subway station, and a guy says, can you watch my bike? And I say, put it down, right? So, and he runs to the bathroom. So according to the Tanna Kama, if I say you can put it down, if I give you permission to put it in my chutzner, I accept responsibility. According to Rebbe, you're only responsible if you say, I'm going to watch it, right? In which case you'd be patur. So that seems to be the machloket Tanaim, that would be a machloket in this case as well. Answer says the Gemara, but that none of that logic matters. None of the logic adds up. Mimai, how can you claim, or how can you try to prove that these are the same cases? Dilma, ad kan look ami rabbanan hatam ele bechatzer debat naturihi. Right? It could be that the Chachamim say that if I say to someone, you can put your thing into my chatzer, I'm now responsible to watch it because the chatzer is a place that is watched, right? It's a private place. So because it's a place that's usually watched, if I say to him, put it in, I mean put it in, and it's going to be watched. But if I'm standing in the subway station, and I say to you, leave it down, right? Avohacha shuka, that's my equivalent, right? The shuk, meaning a public space. It's not a place where you generally leave your things and they're not reliable. So when I say to him, put it down, I'm saying, heck with you, put it down. You're risking your whole life. Put it down and you watch it, Kamarle, right? Meaning I'm not saying you do it. I'm not willing to work for you. So when I say come into my chatzer, I'm accepting a level of responsibility because that's the nature of a chatzer. So maybe the Chachamim say it about chatzer, but don't say it about this public place. Inama, you can look at it the opposite way. Rebbe says there that if I say put it in, I don't accept any responsibility until I say put it in and I'll watch it. But that's only bechatzero. Why? Right? Basically, the guy has to ask your permission to go into your chatzer, right? Because he can't walk into your property without your permission. So you can assume they're saying to you, can I walk into your chatzer? And you're saying, sure, you can walk into my chatzer, but watch your own thing in my chatzer, right? I'm giving you permission to enter, but I'm saying, right? Watch it for yourself. You can come into my house. I'm not going to make you a meal, right? Meaning I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to do something for you. But here, if you're standing in the shuk, or you're standing in the subway station, and I say, put your bike down, you don't need my permission to put your bike down, right? It's a public place. Avohacha here, hanach. When I say put it down, I mean put it down. I'm going to watch it. If I was saying put it down and you watch it, kamarle, then why you ask? What am I telling you? Ila otfe. If you need permission to put it down, reshuta b'yimishko, you got to ask my permission to put your thing down in the middle of a public place. So therefore, it's possible that there's differences both ways, right? Between someone saying, put your thing in my chatzer, where there's a machloket tanaim, whether that's, and I'll watch it or I won't watch it necessarily, and where we're stam in the middle of a public place in a shuk, and I say to you, can I put my thing down? Can you watch my thing? And I say, put it down, right? If I say put it down in front of me, then everybody agrees I'm accepting responsibility to watch it. If I say put it down in front of you, I'm clearly not accepting responsibility. But stam, we don't have a resolution about whether you're accepting responsibility to watch it or not.
What's the level of responsibility? Is that the level of a shoel or shomer sachar?
So the Mishnah said neither shomer chinam.
Shomer
Right?
chinam.
At the most, you would be a shomer chinam because you're not getting paid for this, right? You're just doing it. So you're either nothing or a shomer chinam. Tomorrow, I know I said we're going to do this, but it's a short daf tomorrow, so that's why I don't feel any pressure to go ahead. We're going to talk about mashkon, right? We got into the mashkon in the Mishnah, which got very complicated, so we will get back to that, or we will tomorrow at the 2 dots, 6 lines from the bottom.
So he's just chayav shomer chinam. He's just chayav in
Shia, negligence, yeah.
just in Shia.
Correct. In
7:45 a.m. tomorrow.
I think so. Yeah, 7:45 a.m. regular time.
Great.
Not me.
Thanks.
Okay, everyone. Have a great
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Well, that's wet there. What's going on? What do you got? Hiding something important there?
No.
Oh, I lost it. I lost something. Damn. Did I do that? Okay, I got it. My mother, hello. Your nose is dripping again. You didn't say anything. Why don't you take a tissue and wipe your nose? Oh, come on. Blow your nose. Okay, I want to give you, you're holding your pants there. Why are you holding your pants? Why are you holding your skirt? Hmm? You're dripping on your face. Will you blow your nose, please? Blow your nose, blow. Blow your nose out. Nah, what does that mean? You gonna blow your nose? Go blow your nose. Blow, blow. Come on. You're not doing it. You're nosing. Come on, blow. That's good. Come on, blow it out. Blow it out. Got a bit of a cold here, I think. We have some juice. Got the juice for her? Does she need to get changed? She's holding, she keeps holding onto her,
There's that.
where's my thing here? The brochure from the synagogue. Oh Lord, where's the bulletin from the synagogue? Where is it? Too much stuff here. Where'd it go?
Did you call? Yeah, you called. Did you just call? Oh, what was the name of this? Okay. Yeah, it's fine. I just went there.
Hmm. Where is the Riverdale Jewish Center bulletin? Mm, 8 o'clock. Back tonight. You got the fruit there? You want the some blueberries? Not fruit?
Yeah.
It's getting a little chillier now.
Yes.
Hello. Hello. You okay? You doing okay? You just, your nose is running a bit. You know that? You know that, right? Well, I wanna make sure you have enough tissues. Here's a box of tissues, okay? You can take the tissue when you need it, all right? You understand? So if your nose runs, you pick up a tissue, okay? You understand? Okay? So that's a box of tissues. You can hold the tissue box. And you take a tissue when you need it. You understand me? Okay, go ahead. You did this before. I remember in Lakewood, you had a whole box of tissue. And you can take the tissue. Take it out of the box and blow your nose. You want some blueberries? You want a blueberry? A blueberry. You want to taste one? You want one? It's good for you. Want a blueberry? What? You want a blueberry? Would you like a blueberry? Huh? You want a blueberry? No. Maybe she'll have it then, we make blueberry.
Oh.
It's small, early.
Happened, I don't put it in that thing.
Strawberry there too?
You wash it and cut off the stem,
Turn off the steam?
wash it and cut off the stem.
They ain't sure about it.
Hold on,
That's it?
one second. I put up on, I just left the edges that give the expiration, the line, and the radius. Yeah, expiration, the bottom. Sometime in 2025.
Well.
Oh, yeah, I took off, I found a, coupon for. Well, no, I don't know, it's a certain amount of money.
In the store,
Yeah,
is that where you found it?
no. We're just building the one you has, wires. So. Pick them up.
I have that other problem.
Fine.
You got the other product also. The Pro,
Yeah, I know.
totality.
I don't know if I've seen that.
That's it. But I think that's samples.
All right. This is okay, right? It's not too thick, right?
No.
Everything's thicker.
Oh, you take the tissue out, you blow your nose, you understand me, right? You just pull it out, pull. That's it, come on, keep pulling, pull it out, pull. Pull. That's it, now you wipe your nose, good. You wipe your nose. Here, hold it, you're gonna hold it. Finish using the one. Uh,
Oh boy, the box fell down. All right, I'll pick it up in a few minutes. Rolling. Rolling down. Up or down? Where do you wanna go down? Hello? Hi, I'm gonna bring you closer to the light. All right? I'm also gonna close the window because I'm thinking maybe it's a little too cold for you, a little wet from your nose or your Oh, boy. All right, 1 minute. Let me, get down. Come on, listen, we have to blow your nose. Your nose is running. Your shirt got all wet. I'm gonna have to put a towel in underneath the shirt, underneath the chest. Dry towel. Maybe I should put this in actually. This is dry, this side. This side is wet. Doesn't matter, your shirt's wet. Maybe I get another one, let's see. Cold. All right, let me get. Hey, listen, I'm putting this in underneath, hello. I'm gonna take you closer to the